Good day, folks. This is Greg at BlackHAMMOND.com. I wanted to do a little bit of a dialogue video. I actually hate doing these. I can't stand playing Mr. Salesperson. I don't like promoting or tooting my own horn, but unless I do it, no one else will do. And unless I communicate effectively what it is Black Hammond actually does, we kind of get lost between the cracks, if you will. I've been involved in this stuff since the early 90s. Got involved in it as a teenager, went full time in this work in 2006. Many years ago, back in the late 90s actually, I had the utmost admiration for a firm in Atlanta, Georgia that sold a lot of vintage Hammond organs along with other keyboard instruments. And I actually played the part of a liaison or a salesperson for that firm, and it was, I don't know, disgruntled about a particular thing. They did good work on the internals pretty much, but when it comes to the external, it just kind of didn't matter. And I'll never forget one particular C3 cabinet, after it was about pretty much being ready to load up in a van and be delivered to a church, a thin layer of Minwax red walnut stain wiped down on it just to kind of cover all the imperfections. It just didn't sit well with me. You know, it wasn't like a really bad thing, but I found a lot of times churches that would buy vintage Hammond organs were moving into a either new sanctuary where there were new beautiful pews, pulpits, and altar furniture and that sort of thing, or they were remodeling. And so we would drag in this beastly looking, you know, Hammond organ that looked like it had fell off the truck somewhere in the country. And, you know, years ago, I used that as a kind of a platform for my inspiration to do this all out, like way out, like really kind of overkill. And I'm going to try my best to, for the sake of time, consolidate as much thought as I can. But, you know, years ago, somebody said, well, you're not working on Mercedes, plural Mercedes. And I was like, yeah, I'm actually working on something better than Mercedes. I'm working on a piece of American history. Hammond organs deserve as much attention as John Deere tractors, as Harley Davidson motorcycles, as a Chevrolet Bel Air. The mechanical organs are continuing year after year to kind of diminish in population. A lot of them are dying out. And we actually, I actually abide by a code of sometimes some need to be pulled from circulation. So some organs become parts donors. But those parts that are salvaged are carefully selected to build the most pristine quality instruments. Every organ that comes in here, well, 95% of all the organs are fully dismantled. Some are destroyed. Some we pull out of circulation, destroy the cabinets because they are too far gone. And I'm not, you know, that's not a bad thing. There were, I think it was, the number was 375,000 B3 and C3 Hammond organs built over a 20-year period. That doesn't include the A100s and the 2 series organs and some of the others. So with all that's in circulation, when you find a bargain, for instance, on Marketplace, some of those bargains are not going to be ideal for a consumer. That you're not going to roll that joker up in the church or the studio and have fun. You're going to regret the bargain. But the bargains for people like myself who are very experienced in this, know what parts can be pulled and repurposed, or if the organ actually can be revitalized. Every organ that comes in here is taken down to its cabinet. Every single component is pulled from the organ. The pedal switch assembly, all the wiring, the manuals, the generators, everything. And then the fall boards are taken apart, and we pay good premium dollars to a firm here in Macon that we've been using for 23 years. They are very good at what they do, and we fully entrust that portion of the restoration project. The metal components like upstop rails, sometimes the drawbar shelf rails, volume pedals, outlet boxes, some of the components, the metal components inside the organ, we send off to a company in Savannah, Georgia called Savannah Powder Coat. Been using them since 2013, so 11 years. They do really good work. A powder coated material after it's been sandblasted is a literal permanent finish. It will never rust. It's non-conductive. Doesn't let voltage flow through it because it's kind of like a plastic shell. It's a modern day of refinishing metal that is just invaluable in my opinion. A lot of the brass components such as fallboard hinges, locks, if it's a brass vibrato selector and power on plates, we polish those out here back all the way down to their brass, and they're very pretty. We put a good coat of lacquer on them to preserve them for years to come. Tone wheel generators are very, very carefully selected. We make sure every note is present, and usually they're recapped. We have a code if it's general instrument capacitors that they begin using, I think in about 61 maybe. We leave those alone, everything after that. But the ones before, if they're wax capacitors, those get replaced. For the vibrato scanner, it's taken apart all the way down to every component, very thoroughly cleaned for 24 hours, and then re-lubed and put back together. That ensures correct vibrato for many, many years to come with no issues. There's two problems with vibrato scanners. They're either seized up from lack of oil, or they're shorted out because of too much oil. It's always two different problems, but rebuilding them corrects both problems. And even if the vibrato scanner works when the organ comes in, it still gets rebuilt, and that simply ensures for many more decades that you're not going to have any problem. We have kind of an unofficial slogan here at Black Hammond. It says, "I don't want to hear from you again." And so the whole concept of what I do is, if I sell this Hammond A105 and I ship it 900 miles away, the last thing in the world I want to have happen is within 5 years, the church call me with a major problem. We just do everything possible to make sure that doesn't happen. So when the organ shows up in your church, recording studio, or home, it looks, sounds, smells, and behave like it was a new instrument back from 1965 or whenever. The manuals are fully disassembled. All the keys are removed, the preset keys, the drawbars. Most of the time, the drawbars are completely disassembled, cleaned, and rebuilt, relubricated. Preset mechanisms are degreased and then regreased. That ensures that they don't gum up and become inoperable. All the keys are hand washed. The felts, the key comb felts, which are related to the flats and sharp keys, the black keys, we take them home and wash them in a load of laundry, of all things. I found they just, the cleaner, the better. They're clean, the good water, you know, kind of opens them up again. We let them sit out and dry out for a day and then reinstall them. The manuals of the chassis are completely opened up. We take an air compressor and take them outside and blow out all of the filth. You would be amazed at what happens to the insides of a Hammond organ after 65 years. We're talking fingernails, hair, cat hair, dog hair, insects, lots of ladybugs, of all things. We clean the heck out of those manuals. So again, the idea is the organ is as new as absolutely possible. Several years ago, I was looking for a Volvo V70 wagon. I was on Craigslist, eBay, I think maybe Marketplace, Auto Trader, and I noticed this one V70 was like twice as much money as all the other V70s, but it would look very good. And I called, it was a dealership, I think in Birmingham, Alabama, and they said, yeah, we tear down these Volvos and do way more work than you can, for the people who are actually interested in spending the money and they want top notch. You know, you can get a paint job, you know, for $1,000, but you can also get a paint job for $10,000. You want the thing taped up and scuffed up a little bit, or you want it taken apart, the windows removed and the doors, you know, all this stuff. We go way, I'm just trying to explain to the level of trouble that we go through. We recap all of the power amps in A100 Hammond organs, and all the preamps at a bare minimum, 4 resistors that are kind of vital to the vibrato on and off channels, and all the electrolytic capacitors replaced. Most of the time nowadays we're using Trek 2 CPR 28 system, which replaces every single component. All of them are replaced. And again, it just ensures current perfection, but years to come perfection. Going back to the tone generator capacitors, I had a engineer, a retired Air Force electronics engineer a few years ago working in here with me, and he was curious about the value shifts from those old wax capacitors and generators. He said, what do you think, how much do you think they've drifted in value? And I said, probably maybe 10-20%. Well, he tested all 43 of them, and all of them were at a margin of 400% changed. That's what changed the tone and how the organ actually sounded. It's all about the math, the numbers. Just like in the health, you know, doctors say, well, your numbers look good. And I'm like, well, what does the numbers have to do with the human body? Well, there's all kinds of numbers, electrolyte numbers, there's cardiovascular numbers, there's, you know, cerebral numbers. They all have to be right for your body to work. Well, in electronics, the numbers need to be at a tolerant level so that for the organ to sound the way it's supposed to sound. Let's see, what else can we discuss? All the wiring that goes to the floor outlets is generally replaced new Leslie switches, new Leslie kits. Most of our organs these days are going with 3300Ws because they're readily available, they are new, and they are reliable. If you were wanting to split hairs and absolutely, you know, you could argue that an old Leslie, a 50-plus-year-old Leslie, might sound better. You know, you could probably argue that until the cows come home and never come to a resolve. We go with the 3300s because, like I said, they are readily available, and they are new, and they are reliable. It's just an easy, or I don't want to use the word easy. I'd rather use just, you know, streamlined production. Here in the Southeast, there are far and few between good, decent, restorable 122 and 147 type Leslies. When we do come across them, when they're traded in, of course, we give them the attention. I'm looking at one over here that's one of the most beautiful ones I've ever seen, but that's far and few between. So most of our organs are mated with 3300 Leslies. We may consider the Heritage 122s. They're a little expensive, you know. I'm not really sure the budgets for many will be conducive for that. But let's see what else. Of course, the bus bars are lubed in the pedal switch assembly and the manuals. That's an automatic. Most of the time, the pedal switch felt is replaced new. The pedal boards are taken apart, and every pedal is very, very carefully cleaned, and we rotate the felts or replace them new when need be, and put the pedal board back together, and it functions well, and there's no sluggish behaviors. I'm just trying to really effectively communicate today. When you buy an organ from Black Hammond, it's kind of humorous, we don't want to hear from you again, and all that really means is we go to the lengths of trouble to make sure you're in good shape for many years to come, because we know how tedious these things can be, how irritant. And when there is a problem, just a few years ago, a gentleman called over from Anniston, Alabama. They're 200 miles away. I'd sold them a C3 and two 3300Ws, and they wanted a transpose unit put in. The transpose unit failed, It was the day before homecoming. The organist went in on Saturday just to rehearse a little bit and found that the organ would not turn on. So I talked with him a little bit on the phone and we couldn't get it resolved. I got in the car and dropped everything I was doing to drive 200 miles one way to be sure they were in good shape for that homecoming Sunday. Now that's a little bit of an extreme example, but I stand behind what I sell. If there's a problem, I do everything in my human ability to deal with the problem. Please keep in mind, I have organs all over America, and even we're exporting now a little bit. And it's just one of me. So, you know, just be respectful and mindful of my position, but I do everything possible, you know, we cover our organs, first of all, with a 3-year warranty. And even beyond that, normally I never hear, I've sold so many organs for the past 20 years, I've never heard from the people who, you know, purchased, the churches that purchased, because they just haven't had any problems. And sometimes, you know, 15 years will go by and I'll get a call all of a sudden about a service, and several things needed to be addressed. So I try to drill in. It's your responsibility to maintain one organ, and it's a good idea to have a technician, a qualified technician, come by at least every 2 years. The original recommendation was every year, but this is a little hard sometimes to get it done every year, but at least by every 24 months, 18 to 24 months preferably, have the organ oiled at a bare minimum and some adjustments be made. But we offer financing and we do everything we can to make sure. We also sell new Hammond organs, of course, and they are doing very, very well. We sell just as many probably as new as we do the old guys. But just wanted to give a little update, you know, new information, because we've got followers that we didn't have back in, you know, 2010 on Facebook or YouTube or wherever. We're still here building organs every day. I've got 3 gorgeous, gorgeous models sitting here right now. This is an A105 that I can't say enough good about. It just feels wonderful. It sounds flawless. It's perfect. C3, 56 C3 behind it. Same story. Then an A100, I think it's a 61. Got another A100 over here, and I'm building another Ebony B3 sitting right here to my left, and an A122, and a few others are in the works. We have several build processes going on at the same time, so when we get, you know, 2 or 3 sold at once, we're ready for you. Anyway, this is Greg at BlackHAMMOND.com signing off. I really hope to hear from you guys. You know, shout out if there's any, if you need any technical advice, if you're in other parts of the world or the country, Mike can help you out with some information. Email us. Our email is available at BlackHAMMOND.com, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.